So welcome friends. So today, now I am going to discuss a very interesting area, compensation cess. Maybe you also heard of this because there is a lot of furor in Lok Sabha also. Okay, so recently Arun Jaitley, the Honorable Finance Minister, also announced and even got the bills passed by the Parliament. Okay, you know GST GST is in different parts: state GST, central GST, union territory GST, integrated GST. There are 4 parts. GST is in 4 parts, and put together it is GST. It's called GST, and there is a methodology to compensate the states. So what I am going to discuss, I am not going to discuss other things. Just I would like to confine myself to the compensation part. It's a very interesting area. It's a very tricky area. Finance Minister and of course the GST Council as a whole has done a wonderful thing. They played a very good trick, and finally they are collecting everything. They are collecting everything from the public only. So states are being compensated not by any means, not by anybody, but by the public, not from the funds of the central government or from consolidated fund of India, nothing else. Simply they are collecting from the public as extra amount in the form of cess, and they are compensating. They are going to compensate. That is what I am going to discuss. So first of all, what I do is, see, this is about compensation, right? So first what I do is, what? I answer this, what? So means, what is compensation? So what is compensation? That I discuss first. And next I go ahead with why. Why there is a need for compensation. I go for why then. And next I go for the methodology. How? If the compensation is made, how it is made? What is the methodology, modus operandi? So first of all, so let me talk about this. What is compensation? So compensation, by simply meaning, is something to make good the loss. To make good the loss incurred by some party. Suppose you are incurring some loss, you have incurred some loss, and I compensate. I make it good. Suppose I assure you that if you have a loss, I will compensate. It is like indemnity. So I will do it. I will compensate. Compensation is something which is paid to meet the requirement. Okay. So here compensation is meant for the loss that may accrue, that may arise. That is only a contingency that may arise in future. Okay. So with reference to this particular thing is, now that it is 100% certain that we are going to have GST in India. That is, they have given a date, 1st July 2017. So now GST has become a reality. But why there is a lot of delay, inordinate delay since 2010? Because earlier it was proposed to be introduced in the year 2010. Now we are going to implement in 2017, mid of 2017 almost. Why? 7 years long delay. Why? Because there were so many inhibitions. There were so many ifs and buts from the state governments, because they are safe and comfortable with in their safe zone, comfort zone. They are collecting various taxes in the states, say local sales tax, VAT, interstate sales, CST, and luxury tax, purchase tax, entertainment tax, lottery tax, gambling tax, etc., 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 octroi, entry tax, purchase tax or consignment tax. There are several types of taxes. The state governments have been enjoying. Now all of a sudden the center woke up with a proposal that you get away from all these things, get rid of all these things and you collect only one tax, single tax. Naturally, it's very difficult for the states to digest. So they started resisting. No, 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 like this. Because there is always a repulsion, there is always a resistance to change. They don't want to change. But the central government is very keen to introduce this. Very keen to introduce this, and there are plenty of advantages. Plenty of advantages. Overall advantages are there. So now, what is the way out? The central government, the union government try to comfort, soothe, saying that if you have any loss or deficit in tax collections due to the introduction of the GST, we are going to compensate. But earlier the Congress government was not successfully able to satisfy, not able to, what you can say, convince the state governments about the methodology. They were not convinced. So now this government is very successfully doing this. This is able to now successfully convince. How the government is able to convince, how the union government is able to convince the state governments? They simply say, we will collect additional tax in the form of cess and I will pay you. See that now the state governments have agreed. See, what is the compensation? The conclusion is, the compensation is the loss. The state governments will be compensated for the loss or deficit arising out of the introduction of the GST in the place of existing earlier taxes. Okay. So suppose, let us assume government of Delhi is collecting 10,000 crore rupees tax. Of course, it is collecting more than this. 10,000 crore rupees as taxes, right? Suppose all of a sudden GST has been introduced, and through GST, suppose it is able to collect only 8,000 crore. So it is incurring a loss. There is a deficit. So there is a deficit of 2,000 crore. So this is to be compensated by the system. So it is not union government, it is the system which is going to compensate. You see the fun. So similarly, it may be happening with any state, because GST has been obviously a destination based tax. Destination based means there is one state producing. Suppose Gujarat is a producing state, and Delhi is a consumption state. So consumption state, producing state. So as per the scheme of GST, tax is payable. Tax is collected at the consumption point. So when the tax is collected at the consumption point, Delhi government is gaining. What about the Gujarat government? Gujarat government, even it's a producing state, it is losing. So they also raised an issue. No, we are going to lose. How to? This is not going to be a good proposition for states like Gujarat which are producing. Then simply the union government said, simply you can, we are going to compensate. We are going to compensate. How? What is the present level of collection, tax collection? Tell me, okay, this is the present level of tax collection. We are going to compensate. But the issue is, there is an increment every year because of inflation. Because inflation is there, just as the inflation is a reality, and growth in tax collection is also a reality because of inflation. Because of inflation, there is a price rise. Because of the price rise, there is a rise in taxes. So government of Delhi is collecting, say, 10,000 crore rupees today in this financial year. Next financial year, it will be collecting a little more. How much it would be? So then they agreed to the proposition. There should be what you can say, 14% has been agreed through deliberations in the GST Council. So 14% annual growth. So today it is, this year it is 10,000 crore, next year it would be 11,400 crore, 14% increase, and next to next year 14% on 11,400 crore. Like that, the government assured through a law, not simply by saying, not simply by an agreement, simply through a law, they want to compensate 14% at a growth rate of 14% every year for a period of 5 years. So this compensation at an incremental rate of 14% for 5 years, right? It's a very good proposition, very good thing. And then suppose it is at 14% increase, right? So that is the compensation. You understand the concept? The concept is compensation to the states because they are going to introduce the GST, they are going to have a GST. Because of the GST, they may have some deficit compared with the earlier tax collections, and the deficit is taken care of by the cess collections. Okay, what is compensation? That is the compensation to the state governments. And the next one is, why compensation? I have already done it. Why? Because if they introduce the GST, there may be a deficit. If there is no deficit, then what happens? So they played a very tricky game. I will discuss later on. So there is a likelihood of deficit in tax collections, revenue earnings by the state governments. So they need to be compensated, otherwise their economy will be affected. Say for example, Delhi government is has been collecting 10,000 crore per annum as taxes, and if it collects less than that, its activities, its program, its planning will be affected. So they can't afford. So they need to be addressed, they need to be compensated. And then how it is done? How is very important. So the how part is that they want to make a law. They have introduced a law, compensation. See, the GST compensation to states bill 2017, it has been already introduced and passed by Lok Sabha in 2017. Because it's a money bill, it need not be referred to Rajya Sabha, but they will still do it, and they may consider, may not consider the recommendations made by the Rajya Sabha, because it's a money bill, and it is done. So it has been passed and waiting for the assent of the president. Once the assent of the president takes place, it becomes a law. Now it is a bill, it becomes a law once it is declared in the official gazette. Okay. So how it is done? The how part is very interesting. It's very interesting. How? What they do is, through this act, it is going to be an act, no doubt. Through this act, they will collect a tax called cess, and this cess is intelligently not on all goods. You know, what are the proposed rates? 0, 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. So 28% normally it's on the very higher side. This 28% is meant for thin goods and luxury goods. Thin and luxury. Thin goods and luxury goods. What are the thin goods? These were also earlier known as the demerit goods, affecting health and this thing. So say for example, tobacco products, and others, pan masala, etc. and coal coke, polluting. Coal producers and coke producers, they have also been put under this. So similarly, luxury goods, say for example cars, BMW, cars, air conditioners, aerated waters. Interestingly, these aerated waters are also luxury. But as a fashion in a place like Delhi, as a fashion, everybody drinks cool drinks, aerated waters, like that. So luxury goods and sin goods, they attract higher rate. Because they attract higher rate, they were put under 28% bracket. Not only that, government is not happy with 28%, it wants to collect more. So what it does, so it proposed to collect cess on them, not on this, not on this, not on this, not on this. So it is not collected on this, on this, on this. It is collected on this, over and above 28%. So 28% is the proposed one, and final rates are yet to come, and of course, this will be confirmed, but what are the products for which this rate is applicable, they are going to announce. So here 28%, let me take an example. Say for example BMW car, it is at present it is attracting around 40%. So if you buy a BMW in India, you are going to pay around 40% taxes. But today under GST, say let us say it is going to have say 28% only, let us say. But what about the rest? They want to collect, suppose the government wants to collect 40%, same thing, same way. So simply 12% cess. Done? 12% cess. So finally they have successfully collected 40%, but this 12%, it's not a part of revenue. Right now, for the time being, it's not revenue, it is put separately, and it will be paid. It will be paid to compensate the states which are going to have deficit in their tax collections, and those states which are having enough collections, they don't get anything, and those states which are not getting sufficient amount, the amount will be forwarded to them. So this is how they have done, and practically what they have done is there is a cap. For example, for the cars, etc., they have put cars and other products, they have put 15% as cap, maximum. So maximum 15% means in this particular case 28 plus 15 becomes 43. So they may even go up to 43%, they cannot go beyond. So that's how they have put a cap. So as per the cap, 15% maximum, and for example, for coal coke they have put as at 400 rupees per ton, and for pan masala etc. 135%, like that they have fixed in the schedule in the act, schedule to the act. So now it's clear, cess is collected over and above the tax rate on sin goods and luxury goods given there, and to that extent what they do is that amount is kept separately and the amount is paid to the states to compensate the deficit if any. Done. So that is how it is done. Next question is, how long do they do? How long? Next point is how long? It has been proposed to be for 5 years from the day of implementation. There is a cut-off date. From the cut-off date, it would be compensating for 5 years. After 5 years, the state governments are supposed to be self-made, self-dependent. They won't get anything extra. For 5 years, they will be fully compensated, fully, not like VAT. But I tell you, so what my conscience tells me is, no state government is going to have any deficit. They will be having surplus, I believe. And the question is, suppose every year government by virtue of this act is collecting in the form of cess, collecting cess to compensate the states. But the state governments are, no state governments are incurring any loss or deficit, or few states are having and they are getting compensated and there is a surplus. There is a surplus, then what to do with? And this will not be given back to the public. It will not even be transferred to consumer welfare fund as is done under indirect taxes hitherto. So what they do, they simply keep it and they will distribute among states and the center. Say for example, central government will retain 52%, let us say, or 58%, and state governments get 42%. So finally it will go to the governments, center and state, they will divide as per the ratio agreed upon. See, finally the cess, the amount collected in the name of cess is a reality, confirmed, and once they collect, they will retain, either distributed to the weak states or it will be distributed among all states and the center, and it will not go back to the consumer, not even to the, much less the consumer welfare fund. Done? So for 5 years they are going to compensate. Okay? So simple example. So what are the things? We can also discuss a few more things. So how the amount is calculated? So amount computation. There is a methodology to compensate. First of all, it is to be computed. What about your state? For a state's revenue, the base year is financial year ending 2016, means financial year 15 and 16. So what is the tax revenue collections of a particular state in 2016, financial year ending 2016, means 15-16. Same example, if you take the same example, suppose 100 is the tax collection for a particular government. It may be multiples of millions, multiples of crores, whatever it is. So 100 is the figure that a particular state government collected as revenue for the financial year ending 2016. Okay, and for 2017, financial year ending 2017 already introduced. Okay, for 2017, that particular state, because it is introduced all over the country uniformly. Of course, even in Jammu and Kashmir. Let me tell you a very interesting thing. This act is applicable all over India, including the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Whereas GST acts are not applicable. GST acts are not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir because of Article 370, you know. But Jammu and Kashmir is bound to make a law of its own, no doubt, but in consonance with, on the lines of the state GSTs. It cannot deviate. If it deviates, there would be a problem. वो तो जिद पे थे, हम मान गए, we have accepted. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि वो अपनी मर्जी से चलेंगे. अब अपनी मर्जी से चल नहीं पाएंगे. They have to make a law according to the state GSTs. Okay? Even though they make in their own way, but they have to be in consonance with. Okay? So then, in 2017, how much they should get? So in 2017, they should get 100 plus 14, 114, because the growth is, increment is said to be agreed to be 14% every year. So in 2016, 15-16, it was 100 rupees, and it is expected to get, with the same system, with the same existing system, it is expected to get the revenue of 114, and if it gets less than 114, it is eligible to get the compensation from this, otherwise no. Suppose a particular state gets 102. So the deficit is 12 and it is compensated this way. This is compensated. Now you understand, base year is financial year ending 2016 and increment is 14%, and suppose you are getting 116. Do you get any compensation? No. Do you have to return this to 2? No. Keep it. If you get more, you keep it. If you get less, you ask us. We will pay. We will compensate. That is the story. Okay. So this tax collection, how it is computed from? So what are the taxes? What are the taxes from which it is collected? Say from state point of view, taxes, collection of taxes, state plus local bodies, state plus local bodies taxes. So let me read out, because if I go on writing on the board, it takes more time. So they have given a list. They have given a list of taxes. So for example, state, from the state point of view, local sales tax, VAT, CST, luxury tax. I'll read out simply. VAT, CST, luxury tax, purchase tax, lottery, gambling, betting taxes, and octroi, entry tax, entertainment tax, amusement taxes, etc., etc. All these taxes, they will go. And all these taxes, these are because these are the taxes subsumed. And toiletry products, toilet preparations. So toiletry products, toilet preparations, it is a duty of excise levied centrally, but it is collected and retained by state governments. So that amount is also included. And whatever the local bodies collect, that is also included. Local bodies collect, say for example, octroi or by any other name, that is also included. So put together, that is included. What is not included? What is not included to compute what you can say 100, whatever it is, state revenue? What is not included is 5 products, 5 petroleum products, Aviation turbine fuel, petroleum, crude petroleum, high speed diesel means diesel, petrol, motor spirit, and of course alcohol for human consumption, because alcohol for human consumption is out of GST, and these 4 are not out of GST, but right now these are allowed to be collected separately by state governments. They maintain their status quo and they will collect as usual, as they are doing right now. They will continue to collect, but on one fine day they will also be subsumed. They will also be included in the GST list. Okay. So other than these 5, and when other taxes including the cesses on them, what is the collection in 2016, 2015-16 for each state, that is computed? And okay, that is the thing, and they will check up in 2017 how much they have collected, and proportionately they will check up if there is a deficit. For example, in 2017, let us say in 1st July onwards this is being introduced, means it is only for 9 months. Okay, 1st July onwards, July to March in 2017-18 financial year. July means already April, May, June, 3 months gone. We are introducing from July 1st onwards. So 9 months. Say for Delhi government, say it is 10,000 crore. So next year in 2017-18, this is base year 2015 and 2016, right? 10,000 crore. It is supposed to have in 2017-18 for full year, it is supposed to have 11,400, because I have added 14% increment. Okay, 10% is 1,000, 14%, 11,400 crore it is supposed to get. But it started first 3 months it has collected in its traditional way, and for 9 months it is adjusted for 9 months. So for 9 months it is adjusted accordingly, whatever we get. You can calculate whatever we get. If you calculate, let me calculate and say 11,400 into 9 divided by 12. 8550. So if Delhi government, assuming that it is collecting 10,000 crore, so if the Delhi government is able to collect 8,550 crore for the 9-month period, it requires no compensation. If it is anything less than this, compensation will be made. I think I have tried to explain the concept and the modus operandi or the methodology involved in GST compensation through GST cess, and this is only a beginning. And let me tell you, let me share with you that I am going to upload many more topics on GST as a series. And if you like this, if you like to have further series also, you can subscribe to my channel. So please don't forget to subscribe, and I will continue to upload so many videos like this. Thank you. All the best.